Here I am, a couple minutes late. Busy day. Multitasking, but we're going to talk all about MaddieS0t0 and some of what we're learning from these hundreds and hundreds of documents and images and evidence that have been released publicly. There's many different ways to approach it and talk about it. We're going to be talking about it tonight on my show on Court TV as well. So we have that coming up. But I'm going to go through some of the big things that we're learning here. And as you go through it and as you read it and comprehend what is happening here, you're left with your head absolutely shaking. Like, how on earth did this mother parent her child this way? That's what you're left with. But let me tell you this, as you're reading it also, you're wondering, well, what exactly did she know? What exactly did she know? And when did it happen? And you're looking at the timeline here. And there's a couple of big things that were stuck in this gray abyss of information because of the vague information that had been previously released and some of the vague interviews of Stearns, or the vague answers of Stearns and Soto. First of all, the evidence against Stephen Stearns is overwhelming. It's beyond overwhelming what they have. So all these hundreds and hundreds of pages we've got at Court TV now, and we've got different folks going through different parts of it, trying to piece together and gather together all of the new information. But for me, the first thing and the question that I really had is what I never understood was this timeline of the birthday party and going back home and who was in the house. But now, wow. So Stephen Stearns not at the party. Stephen Stearns comes over at 10:30. So Madeline can get ready for bed. Her mother comes home at 11. And her mother says, listen, I am so tired. I need my rest. So why don't you, my boyfriend, Stephen Stearns, and you, my 13-year-old daughter, why don't you two go to the guest bedroom and let me sleep here by myself? That's what actually happened. Like that's what actually happened. She was tired because she had been working. She didn't wake up till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock the next morning. All this stuff about seeing her get dressed and all that's malarkey. It's malarkey. She didn't see any of that. Her statements totally inconsistent with what she had previously said. And I don't understand her. I do not understand her one bit. Not one bit. Like her what she had been saying is not what she's saying. Like how could the facts surrounding the night and day of your daughter going missing not be like crystal clear as to what was going on here? You saw her, you didn't see her. You saw her or you didn't see her. Like it's very simple. When was the last time you actually saw her? So now it's like 11 o'clock, it's bedtime. Jen Soto needs the bed to herself because she needs to really rest. So you send your boyfriend off with your daughter to the guest bedroom? What is that? What is that? That's a problem. And then you get to the next morning. Well, let me read for you some of what we're getting here. Okay. Okay. When he arrived, this is from the report. When he arrived, meaning Stephen Stearns, Jen was still at work, and he directed Madeline to get ready for bed. Once Jen arrived, she informed Stefan and Madeline she would like to sleep in and directed them to sleep upstairs in the guest room. The following morning, Stefan and Madeline woke up at approximately 7:15 to get an early start so they could purchase food from McDonald's before school. Again, this is the information that they're getting from their interviews of Stearns and Jen Soto. Then we get to his consistent story, right? But here's the problem, right? So the last time that Jen sees her daughter is that night, not the following morning. Hmm. Okay. Now, a big piece of evidence here. Detectives go to the Holiday Inn Club Vacations for surveillance video, which shows a silver gray Lincoln MKZ going into the garage. In the garage, a male in dark hat, red shirt, and tan pants exits the vehicle, opens the trunk. Quote, the male then walked to the front passenger side of the vehicle, opened the door, and proceeded to carry what appeared to be a limp body to the trunk of the vehicle. So that answers another question, right? We were wondering, like, how is this all going on? So it seems from this additional information, and there's a lot more. We're also monitoring this significant cross-examination in the Karen Reed case of the trooper Michael Proctor. So we're doing that as well tonight. So you see, we got a couple of things going on here. So the other big question I had was, well, what's he doing with her body? Right? How does he transport it from point A to point B, from here to there? So it seems that, again, with surveillance video, he's taking her from that front seat where we'd already heard that she had appeared hunched over and did not appear to be alive, takes the limp body, and then puts her into the trunk at this Holiday Inn vacations place, this little garage or whatever it is where they've got the surveillance video. So this is significant. Again, it seems all this evidence is absolutely pointing at him, right? And we know that because of the charges in the case. But her statements become even more head scratching. But it does appear that all these statements she was making about that morning, about getting ready to school, what she was wearing, where did this come from? These are either blatant lies that she was making at the time, or it's information that was relayed to her by him that she's repeating like a parrot. So here's the part you have to wonder. She sends her daughter to bed with her boyfriend upstairs and never sees her daughter again. And she's not suspicious of him. And then when she's confronted with pictures, she's in this denial. Like, how deep is this denial in her? How deep can it possibly go? Like, the timeline, the last time you saw her wasn't in the morning. So that whole story is completely a straight up lie from you, or it's just repeating his lie. because it's nothing that you witnessed. You heard some voices, but there's roommates in the house, for goodness sake. There are roommates in the house. Seven Stearns probably did get up early in the morning because he had to come up with his plan on how he was going to pretend to drop her off early, then find a place to take her from, the passenger seat where she'll be seen on some video, and then get her in the trunk so he could take her somewhere where no one will see her until he gets rid of her. And they've got a lot of evidence from the scene as well. But for her, like once you're confronted with the pictures, that's like, okay, now I know what the deal is. This man's been doing this to my daughter, and guess what? By the way, she's missing, and the last time we saw her, she was in bed with him. That's right. Like, how deep and far in denial do you have to be for that? That is like way in there. Way, way, way in there. I've got more pages, more. So there's roommates in the house as well. Now, something else people are talking about. They interviewed an unidentified 13-year-old. Obviously, must be a friend of Madeline's. This 13-year-old told the detective that Madeline typically got her menstrual cycle 2 days before she did, except for last month when we believe Madeline got hers a week or two after the 13-year-old got hers. The 13-year-old told the detective they did not have a conversation as to why her menstrual cycle was late. The 13-year-old believed Madeline was a virgin, and she did not ever see or hear anything to the contrary. So like any old 13-year-old, she's talking to her friends. And one more thing we can glean from this is that this is a thorough investigation, extremely thorough investigation in trying to uncover and reveal what was going on in this house. So it does not appear, based upon the release of this information, that Jen Soto is there at the time this happens, is taking part in it. I mean, and this was always a possibility, right? Like, the question is like, how naive could she possibly be? Like, how naive can someone be? Right? Like, that doesn't make you guilty of a crime being this naive. But we always look at these things on two levels. We start as real people. Many of us who are parents look at it that way. And then you've got to look at it through the perspective of how our system of justice will or won't, should or shouldn't, can or can't prosecute her. I mean, under some circumstances, you can be prosecuted for being a bad parent. Now, nothing that I'm seeing here makes me believe that her role would be anywhere close to his role in any of this. And that's significant because a lot of people bring up every time I talk about this, well, they cut a deal with him to implicate her. And I think that is at this point even more remote than it's ever been. More remote than it's ever been. Because this and they had more time to spend with her to understand, who she is and where she is in all of this right now. But all these things she's saying, she is a witness. She is an important witness now, as are the roommates in the house, because she now needs to clarify what happened that night. Now, you might be able to use it based upon his statements as well, but much more powerful coming from her. Much more powerful coming from her to explain that night. Now, the jury's not going to like her. The jury's going to be reacting the same way you are. But hear me out. What type of person would someone like Stephen Stearns prey upon and seek out? Someone who you could do this to. Someone like Jen Soto, who for whatever reason in her mind, whether it's being naive, wanting to believe that a man just wants you, that's the low self-esteem, right? That low self-esteem, being naive, or just willing to trust for no reason. Now, there was something else that came up, and this is again another head scratcher. They tracked down a former girlfriend of Stephen Stearns. I got to find so much in front of me here. I'm just trying to pick and choose what I can take a look at right now. Okay. Detectives were contacted, and I said this, right? I said if there were people who know him, they would likely reach out to law enforcement, and she did. This woman who says she previously knew Stearns through working with him at Disney and said they had an intimate relationship from December to May 22 to 23, said that while he was separated from his girlfriend, he still slept at their house and in bed with Madeline. Okay, now figure out, like, where are we? Where are we in this? Again, he said they were separated. Maybe he's just saying that to get this other woman. I don't know. I don't know if she has a daughter too. I don't know. But this other woman who was seeing him December, January, February, March, April, like for 6 months, said that while he was separated from his girlfriend, he still slept at their house and in bed with Madeline. She also said, quote, that Stephen Stearns justified this behavior by saying he needed to cuddle with her so she could fall asleep. So he's not just saying this now to police. He's saying this apparently to his ex. Like, why would you say this to your ex? She also further recalled a conversation she had with Stephen Stearns where he told her that he woke up in bed with Madeline. It's a word I'm not going to say, with a like ready to go, if you know what I mean. And he had to turn around in the bed. This woman felt that these statements were inappropriate, and then she stopped talking to him shortly thereafter. Okay. And they interviewed Madeline's best friend. She never said anything about running away other than saying she wanted to go to the woods. Um, she told her she didn't get along with her mom. She heard from another friend that Madeline's mom had told her she was going to kick her out of the house and disown her when she turned 18 or 19. Okay, now this is something we got to dive into now, right? Was there, and teen daughters and their moms, it's always tough. Not always, but you know, eight times out of 10, it's tough. So one of Madeline's friends is saying that Madeline told her that her mother was going to kick her out of the house and disown her when she turned 18 or 19. Okay. So now we get an idea of some of the angst in the house, right? I'm going to have to bring in some psychs on this because I've had psychs on before about this before we even knew some of this stuff. And they said, yeah, sometimes mom knows, but kind of keeps her, allows it to happen to keep the man around. But then if she's going to be like 18, 19, then there's going to be a level of jealousy. Like, oh, now you're 18 or 19. Now they could just go off together. Right now she's competition or something. This is weird. This is really weird. This is really weird, folks. So we're going to, over the next couple of nights on Court TV, maybe next few nights on Court TV, we're going to go through piece by piece of what we're discovering here. Put some pieces together, get some analysis. I think tonight Gray Hughes is going to come on. He was one of the first ones, if not the first one, to do the deep dive into all this. So he's going to be on tonight as well, going through some of the beginnings of this. Because this is like everything that we did not know, we are now learning. Now, I'm thinking about for a moment the trial. Like this evidence is extremely strong. There is I don't know where else you can go with it. The only place Stephen Stearns could go is pointing the finger at Jen Soto. Or it was an accident. Or it was an accident, right? That's like the only two places he could go. But it's hard for a jury to buy the accident when you've got the SA that is taking place and the evidence of that they'll have. And in order for it to be an accident, right, you've got to, he'd have to testify. Unless you're gonna have like your experts say that, well, it could be accidental, don't know. Yeah, it's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. So this information really clarifies a lot of things. And for me, the big takeaway is very simple, is that night. Like nobody knew for sure. Nobody knew for sure. Where exactly was Jen? When did she come home? What happened that night? Did they see each other? Did they talk on the phone? Did she come back in the middle of the night? Did Jen, what happened? Well, now it's clear. And that makes everything else much clearer in the case and easier to prove. But Jen, I believe now, I was saying yesterday, you don't need her. You don't need her, but you want her now based on this. Just based on putting together those little pieces from the night, from Sunday night into Monday morning, which is when you came home, what happened, where were you, where were they? And that puts Madeline with Stephen away from mom. And that's what you need, because from that point forward, Jen does not see her daughter. She hears some voices. Could be the roommates downstairs. She's all tired and groggy, sleeping in. She needs to sleep in. And yeah, you can certainly judge her for that, being a mother. I'm going to sleep in, so send my daughter off with my boyfriend. That's weird. That's super weird. Like you don't want your daughter sleeping with you? Okay, fine. tuck her in the guest room. You don't stick him in there. All right. Don't forget tonight, obviously we're doing this, plus we're doing the Karen Reed trial simultaneously, a big day there. The lead investigator cross-examination today. And a lot of things came up, and going to bring in our insiders, number one, but also going to bring in a big-time homicide investigator to get their take on the way this homicide investigation went and what this lead investigator was doing and what he was saying and what he was texting. So we'll do that. And then obviously we're going to be on this story for several nights as well. So let's see who's here today. Big thank you again to Vinny's Angels, Melly, Frankie Figs, and Gen X. Hello to them. Thank you for keeping order in the court. I see a lot of names, a lot of hellos. All right. Good conversation with one another. And this is Gigi. Some mothers just want extra money from the government or extra dark web income for their own children. Okay. Something else, right? So if they go off to bed at 11, right, which is the timeline now, what is it, 11:49? He's on this secret app, Telegram. What's going on? What's going on? Mm-hmm. Amanda's here. Thank you, Amanda. MaddieS0t0 is here. Okay. Linda K. Pascal pointed out an important point. Why did Jen took over when SS took Maddie to school? Why did Jen took over when SS? Why did Jen took over? I don't know what that means. I guess the story was she had a doctor's appointment the following morning. Cheryl, is it possible that Jen is the one and SS is covering for her? Two mentally ill people, who knows? I don't think so. I don't think he would cover for anyone. Would he do anything for anyone? I can't imagine. Kathy, awful mother. Yeah. I think we're all in agreement on that. We are definitely in agreement on that. Teresa Bittner, you're awesome. This case is so disturbing. In the depravity scale of cases I cover, this is on the top end for sure. And now we know they're seeking the ultimate punishment. Okay, Michael, why is she not arrested? Then the question is, what for? What for? Do you want to just arrest her for child endangerment? There's an argument for that. Is it a lock solid case? Not necessarily. You've got to show that she has knowledge of what's going to happen. You could get her potentially for making some false statements, but it seems that she clarifies things a little bit more in more of the interviews. You could pick it apart and try to find something, but it seems like anyone that's admitting that you're allowing your daughter to be in bed with your boyfriend, if like you're admitting that. Thank you, Amanda. If you're admitting that, are you misleading in other grounds? Like for me, the question is mentally, like, where is she and why is she parroting his story as her own? Is it to purposely mislead? Like, why is she doing that? Maddie was failed by one person who was supposed to protect her. That's from Melly. Yeah, that's your job as a parent. Job number one, before anything else. That's your job. And I think that's the overwhelming view of all of this. Hi, Vinny. What are they waiting for? Arrest Jen. Your take, please. I don't see the case. Now, I have not gone through all 1,000 pages yet of this interview. Multitasking today, watching the lead investigator in the Karen Reed case. So I'm pulling through some of the big stuff right now. But out of the big stuff, you can't connect him. He's doing everything. He's the one on video doing everything. He's the one with her. He's the one at the scene where she's found. He's the one carrying her limp body. It's him. It's him. It's him. Like, it's him on all these pictures and videos. It's him. Like, you've to arrest, you've got to have the evidence to support whatever the allegation is you're going to make. And to me, even now, with more of this information coming through in the way she communicates in these interviews, she's not super smart. Like, I get it. But for me, you'd have to decipher between her level of intellect and not being super smart or super clear in the way she's communicating versus actively attempting to deceive. Because that's where you are right now. That's where you are. You have nothing connected to the charges related to this or the charges that are getting him the ultimate punishment. There's no nexus right now. Yeah, she handed her to him on a silver platter. Yes. But did she do it knowing what would happen, or did she do it mistakenly trusting or being mistakenly naive about what was going on? Mm-hmm. A lot of great comments here. I'm just going through. Okay, Mary, what if Maddie told her mom that night that Stefan was abusing her? Maybe her mom didn't believe her and struck her and knocked her down. And yeah, possible, right? Possible. And then she's making cover stories. But you need the evidence of it. And what you see this right here? This is something that a defense attorney might throw out there during the course of the trial because they have no obligation to necessarily prove anything, but they can go based upon the evidence. Is this a reasonable inference to make? A reasonable inference doesn't get you to probable cause to charge someone. A reasonable inference doesn't get you beyond a reasonable doubt to prove something. And as possible as this is, Mary, as possible as this is not actionable for the DA. It's not. By the way, good news tonight as well on the show as we go through all of this and these issues related to the mother. We've got the Palm Beach County State Attorney, Dave Arenberg, will be on the show tonight. So he's a prosecutor in Florida, in a different jurisdiction, so he can comment on the case. So he's a Harvard guy. He's extremely smart, and we can talk about the theories and what this means to the mother and how he, as a prosecutor, would approach the mother here now, knowing the information she has that can help you tell your story, but knowing what everyone's going to think about her and her actions, which are obviously bad parenting and borderline on child endangerment. How would he handle her? What would he do with her? Because right now it's nothing. It's nothing. And local reporting down there from WFTV, Shannon Butler, who's been on my show, she's been working down there. I mean, we worked together down in Central Florida years ago, but she stayed there. She knows everyone in town, has more connections than anyone. And her guidance, and her sources are basically telling her that it's all Stearns. It's all Stearns right now. Thanks for all you do, Vinny, from True After Dark. Thank you, True After Dark. Appreciated. Melly's back. If you're waiting to pick your child up from school and she isn't there, why leave? Why not park and go look for her? Yeah. Yep. Again, we get back to horrific parenting, inappropriate reaction to a situation like this. And in the morning, did she know her child didn't have her phone because she dropped it off at school for her? Maybe. Would you do that? I don't know. Would you do that for your child? If your child left their phone at home, would you be like, oh, good, they don't have their phone today? Or do you want your child to have your phone? There's a lot of us who wanted our children to have their phones because that's how we track where our children are, right? That's just the truth. Like the kids think it's the greatest thing in the world. I got my own phone. Yeah. The parent thinks it's great too. I now have a tracking device. So I can rest assured where you are, whether you tell your child you're tracking them or not. Like a lot of families now do the 360 app, and that came up in the Karen Reed trial, but it's an app everybody's on. Everybody knows where everybody is. That's why we all can keep tabs on each other, not for doing something nefarious, but for keeping everyone safe, especially your children. The parenting is bad. The parenting is bad. All right, Amanda Jen is Guilty. Love you, Vinny. We've got to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Looking forward to all your women panel tonight on closing arguments. Thanks, Vinny. Love your show. Run the world. All right, run the world. Some nights we have a lot of women. Some nights we don't have a lot of women. Some nights we have all attorneys. Some nights we don't have attorneys. Some nights I have 3 female psychologists. Sometimes I have 1 male psychologist. It varies. I do not book people based upon what they look like, what gender they are, what race they are, or anything else. It just is what it is. I know Run the World is a little angry about that. I think it's a she. I can't tell from the picture. It's too small of a picture. Yeah, trust me. I have everyone of every walk of life who is an expert or has something to add on my show. All right. Jules, no denial, simply complicit to what her daughter went through. In my opinion, she washed her clothes. All right, now we're getting into another area, right? Okay, if we're getting washing clothes, now you are tampering with evidence potentially, right? If you, and we've had parents that have done this in the Aiden Fucci case down in Florida. I don't know if you remember this. A teenage boy comes back from doing what he did to a teenage girl. Incredibly tragic for that family. But he came back, he had some bloody clothes, and mom put him in the laundry room. Well, guess what? Mom was prosecuted for that. So that's another potential avenue. Thank you, Jules. Good idea. Good idea. What else do we have here? Let's see. Aha. And Drew Romanoff. I don't think she was naive. I think Jen clearly cared about getting her needs met more than protecting her daughter. I think that's true. Protecting her daughter, right? That's a good word choice there. So, does protecting your daughter, are you implying that she knows of the danger? Because if she knows of the danger relative to Stephen Stearns, then we're getting into a world of criminal behavior by her. If she knows, that's the piece of evidence that we need. But she seems to say in that she trusted him. And then after all these years, she trusted him even more. Unfortunately, that's what she's saying or was saying. And you have to evaluate that like any other statement. Is she lying? Is she covering up? Laura Wagner, JS should be charged with domestic sex trafficking. Well, You have to knowingly do it. You have to have proof of the knowledge. Proof of the knowledge. That could come in a couple different forms. If there's any digital footprint of images being dispersed and she is somehow digitally connected to that, that's one way. If she's in any of the photos, but purportedly she's not. If she was, we would have known about that. There would have been a charge along those lines. So, you know, that's the challenge. You've got to have, like, this is the difference between the prosecution side of the courtroom and the defense side of the courtroom. And it's kind of like what's playing in the Karen Reed case. They can insinuate that certain things, looks like certain things are happening. It looks like something happened in the house. It looks like, oh, something's not there. That means this. They don't have to prove it, right? There's a difference. The arguments that are being made in the Karen Reed trial, for instance, by the defense, none of that would be enough to prove anyone in that house or any investigator guilty of anything beyond a reasonable doubt. It's enough to raise a reasonable doubt, right? And raising a reasonable doubt is like this much of the screen. And the rest of it from here down to here, that's the reasonable doubt. That's the amount of proof that you need to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. This is the level of proof you need. But to raise a reasonable doubt, you just need a little bit up here. So the defense is throwing out little chunks like this. And the prosecution has to prove their case like this. Now, if you flipped it around and the defense had to prove that the people in the house were guilty of doing something to John O'Keefe, and I'm using this as an analogy, they don't have enough to do it. And a lot of these arguments right now that we're talking about with Jen Soto, I think are still in this area. Like there's a reasonable argument to be made for all of that. But you need all of this stuff down here to bring it into a courtroom to prove it. And you're going to need this much to charge it. You're going to need some probable cause to about here to charge it, this much to prove it. But now we're just kind of like up here in this little reasonable doubt zone, which is where defense attorneys live in all of these trials, because that's all they have to do. The prosecution's got to take care of this area. That's what I mean. I'm looking at this, analyzing like this as a prosecutor, knowing the burden you have. She's at least guilty of child abuse for allowing Madeline to sleep with Stephen Stearns, so arrest her for that. Okay. There, yeah, arguably you have enough to charge her there. You could charge her. I don't know if you're going to get a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. You might, but first you got to get past the judge. You need some evidence of her state of mind, her state of knowingly putting her in that position. Like she's knowingly putting her there. All right, let's change it up a little bit. What if they were married? What if it's not a boyfriend, it's biological father, it's a mother and it's a father, and mom has a headache, and it's still weird though, because it's a 13-year-old, by the way. But your child doesn't want to sleep alone, and mom has a migraine and needs to be alone. Right? And you have a 2-bedroom house. What do you do? Is that unreasonable too? Like, obviously it's a different situation. He's not the father. He's not the husband. He's not the stepfather, even though he holds himself out to be that. I get it. But like, at what point, what makes it inherently dangerous? Like what level of knowledge does she need to have, or what needs to be known? Or is it something that she should have known? You should know that the person you are dating is a a pedo. Like, are you supposed to know that? Like, if you knew that, would you still be with him? Well, maybe if you were that desperate for a man, you might be. You might know that you're using your child to keep a man in your life. And that could very well be the truth here. How do we prove that to a jury? She doesn't have to say a word. Has she said anything that would, because she said the opposite. She said the opposite of that. So there's nothing that she said. Gray Hughes is with us. He'll be with us tonight on the show. Make sure you subscribe to Gray Hughes Investigates. Yeah, I mentioned that early on. The telegram at 11:49. They purportedly go to bed at 11. So is that our window of time of when this all happens? And now all of a sudden he's got these amazing photos to upload or share, or what? Can you go live on Telegram? Is there like a live thing there too? I don't know. But that's a big part of the timeline now, isn't it? A huge part of the timeline that was uncovered by GHI. Jen Gott. Jen normally took her to school. When did SS tell Jen he was taking her to school? Did he disturb Sleeping Beauty? No. Like the initial statements that she was making, that she saw her getting dressed, that's all. No, that's not consistent with what we're hearing now. And she heard voices. She heard voices down in the kitchen. Assumed it was them. Could have been the roommates. Probably was, depending upon what time it was. And it seems that it was all what they're saying. Now, again, grain of salt. This is what they're telling investigators. So this is what, they're admitting to. Are they coming up with a story after the fact? Is always a possibility. Always, right? Until you have to confront it skeptically as an investigator. But Jen did normally take her to school, but she was sleeping in. That's like the whole thing, right? For this night, right? They're up late, 10:30, 11. She's working. By the way, I work every night. I get home at 11 o'clock. So it's not like I have to sleep in. I wake up when I wake up, but I don't send people out of my room. Like, it's silly. I don't understand what's going on with her. But certainly this is their story for the night, that she worked late. She's tired. She's sleeping in. She's got to go to the doctor the next day. You two go upstairs. You two upstairs. Get away from me. Go up there. Now, if she let's think about it one other way, okay? One other way. And I want you to think about it one other way as well. And this comes back to, again, her not being super bright, okay? Right now, I just want just for a moment, I know it's hard, but for a moment, give her the benefit of the doubt that she trusted this man, that he completely bamboozled her, okay? Now, who is she? She's a mother who knows that she fed her daughter to a monster for years. That would make her, how do you live with yourself, number one? And again, presuming she was bamboozled by this manipulative man. She's not the smartest person. She's a little, this way, not open to the ways of the world. She doesn't understand the dangers of the world, despite the fact that she has a child. And now all of this, you've realized all at once. You've seen the pictures. Now you realize what you did and how you let your child down. How could she not be like in extreme despair, distress, and just a broken person at this point? I mean, is that possible? I mean, I haven't seen her. I have not seen her. She's not made any public appearances. And when I say public appearance, like speaking with a lawyer or in whatever way. Is she completely broken right now? And if she is, and prosecutors know that she's a broken woman right now, and again, I'm throwing out another alternative way of looking at this. If that's the case, do you still feel it would be appropriate to go after her? Even if you could, on a case that you may or may not win, regarding child endangerment or anything else. Again, presuming that she was bamboozled and right now she is like broken. Is that punishment enough for her to live with that for the rest of her life or not? And that also is something that prosecutors could be considering. Her current state of mental health, physical health, and what's going on with her. And you're like, well, I don't think we need to charge her. Like, look at her. She can't even put two sentences together. She's a broken person. And that's a possibility. So that also could be going on right now. We don't know. We don't know. Carrie Dexter. Hi, Vinny. I caught my first live. Do you have any idea of MaddieS0t0 I think it was early that morning. I think it could have been that night. It could have been any time from 11 o'clock on, because she is absolutely not seen by anyone else. Not seen by anyone else. And she is alone with him at 11. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen when she gets sent upstairs? But the question is, if he does do that in the house, is that going to wake up anyone like Jen or the roommates? Like, there's other people in the house. So I tend to think that it's at night, because everything else in the morning is sort of play acting through everything. But the state of the body might tell us something as well from that video of the limp body. Could a medical examiner look at that and say, okay, can you glean anything from that relative to the state of the body? Is there any rigor mortis or anything else that has settled in? Does that tell us anything, seeing her on video that morning? So the morning, I still think is possible. It's in play. But now it's like from 11 up until like 7. That's the huge window of time. Thank you, Carrie. That's a big window. Gigi Stefan gave her drugs, finally OD'd her too far. This is ongoing. So who knows it's ongoing? For sure, Maddie knows. So how does she react at the moment, coming home from a family birthday party where she's celebrating being a teenager, and now she's given to the monster again? How is she going to react to that, right? June tonight. Is it tonight? Yeah. It's late afternoon, early evening. There's no denial. Jen entrusted her daughter to him. If Madeline told her, she would react worse than when confronting with pictures. Those people in many cases perceive that toddlers are giving signs. Jen knew what he told her. Remember, people like Stearns get good at what they do. Get good at what they do. Vinny Angels t-shirts, when? That's the big question, says $31 burn phone. All right. And here's Kirsty on Facebook. Remember, we're simulcasting on Facebook, obviously on YouTube, also on X, and on Twitch. Got over 4,000 right now. Kirsty, if there were other roommates, there could have been responsible. Did they notice anything weird? Yeah. Now the roommates seem to be somehow known or connected whether it's direct or indirectly, family members, people who needed a place to stay. And it seems, I believe there were 2 roommates there at the time. Important witnesses, especially if they're there at night, have to take another look at the layout of the house to see where all the bedrooms are. But what we do know is that the guest room that Stearns and Madeline went to is upstairs and Jen stayed downstairs. So where's the other bedroom for the others? I think that'll be important. Don't forget tonight, closing arguments. Tonight, 8 o'clock, Court TV. Court TV. And don't forget, please like and subscribe and don't miss out on Court TV tonight. Thank you, Melly. Great reminder. Great reminder. Okay, so this is one of the things we talked about, Lauren. Thanks so much, Lauren Abo. But Jen and Steph were broken up, and he was being intimate with another woman and coming back to sleep with Maddie. How wrong is that? And then telling her about it. Right? Like, what is that? Telling her about it. Like, who tells that to a woman you're with? Oh, yeah, I broke up with my girlfriend, but I go back to her house so I can be in bed and cuddle and snuggle with her, 12-year-old daughter. What is that? Joanne on Facebook, Jen lived in a $350,000 condo and had it for years. It wasn't under her name, though. So it could have been like a family member, like a father or someone bought it for her. Emma, she is just so suspicious or totally in denial of this man and what was taking place in her home, disassociated from reality. Thanks, Vinny, for working hard. Disassociated from reality. So to what standard criminally would you want to hold her responsible? For what she knew or for what she should have known? Think about that, right? Every charge in a criminal code, you always have to know, like, what's the legal standard? Like, what's the standard of proof, right? Now, the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt, but what's the standard of proof? Like, what is it that you have to prove? And there are instances where, and it's usually in a reckless situation, right? Or a negligent situation where you do something like, oh, I didn't know that would happen. Well, you should have known that would happen, and you're being held legally responsible. But would that apply in a situation where you're talking about child neglect? Potentially, she should have known that it was dangerous to put her daughter in a bed with a guy like this. She should have known. Mm-hmm. There we go. Got that one. Lynette, you have almost 3,000 watchers. Well, we've got over 4,000 total, but we're simulcasting. Christina Moreno. Thank you, Christina Moreno. So, I'm wondering, and I'm going to look at Lydia, had to say here. No, she had issues with her. She seems to have disconnected with her, and for the fact that this guy had weaseled himself in between them. She just let her child down. Right? Like, let's not forget how these men, because it's always men, operate when they seize on their prey. First, they seek out people that they know they can manipulate and control, right? They're not going to go. He's not going to be going after some woman who, like, is strong and independent, and no, stay away from my daughter. You know what I mean? That's not who he's going to be seeking. So he knows how to sense this and how to find this and how to slowly gain the trust. Although it seemed this stuff began very quickly after they got together. It wasn't a long time. Linda K. Thank you, Linda K. Virginia Martinez. Thank you, Virginia. Nicole, I just joined. What did I miss today? Oh, Nicole, you missed a whole bunch. Well, first of all, it's a busy day. Tonight, 8 o'clock on Court TV, we're going to go over the Karen Reed, the lead investigator being cross-examined. Huge day there. And then huge development in now going through piece by piece, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of newly released documents in the investigation, MaddieS0t0. To me, the headline is the timeline. The timeline is the headline because that was never clear to me about going from the birthday party at the relative's house. She comes home. She is home. Stephen Stearns is somewhere else. He comes over at 10:30 to get her ready for bed. Right? 11 o'clock, Jen is home from work. She needed to sleep in the next morning, so she sends Madeline and Steph to the guest room. She never sees them again. Never sees Madeline again. Michelle Johnson. Thank you, Michelle. Danielle is here. She should at least face endangerment charges. And what about her bio dad? He should have lived in Florida, not Texas, and been more involved. Okay. Now, obviously, there is zero criminal responsibility for the biological dad. You can judge how couples who split up raise their children and make life decisions about where they're going to live and how all that's going to happen. I don't know all the facts surrounding their life circumstances. It seemed like he was in her life to a certain extent. He was not some sort of deadbeat. It seemed like he was doing the right thing. I believe at one point he was in the military. I believe why they're living in different states. I don't know. I don't know what the agreement arrangement was there or the circumstances that led to it. But I think all when you get into that, I think it's very, very fact and case specific. And some people need to be in certain places for work. Some people need to be in certain places for other circumstances. They may have other children as well. There's various reasons. So I get where you're going, Danielle. I get where you're going. But at least from a criminal perspective, there is zero liability there. It would just be a judgment of, what should a parent do when you and the other parent are not together. Brittany Emery is watching. Thank you, Brittany. Amanda keeps popping up. Thank you, Amanda. What else we have here? Melly, I believe page 87 states he recorded roommate in secret. Thoughts? Creeps are creeps. Creeps are creeps. Are there more? I don't know if they're going to deal with any other charges. I mean, they've got two doozy cases coming up, one for the ultimate punishment. But I think it fits the mode, right? It fits the mold, and his modus operandi, what he does, how he lives. He's not like you or I. There's something deeply wrong and disturbed with him. That these are the people that do this. June, it's not discreet. Sorry, they slept together 3 or her boyfriend with her daughter. When were they intimate? Interesting, right? When were Jen and Steph together alone? Seems like never. Great point, June. I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that. April Diaz. Can lawyers visit a CR? I'm messing in a bag. It's cleaned. Okay. I don't know if this is Let's see. Visit a crime. Can lawyers visit a crime scene? Message before it's clean. Okay. I think it can lawyers visit a crime scene before it's cleaned? And I think you're talking about defense lawyers, right? Before it's cleaned. Sometimes. Remember out in Idaho, those defense attorneys did visit the scene. Now, things had been processed, right? The investigators go in and they process the scene. So it won't be exactly like it was when investigators first show up. But yeah, they can visit. A lot of times you work it out with the prosecutor, or you'll have to go to court to get an order to do it. But usually it's there's going to have to be some charges for you to have standing to kind of go there. But the scene will never be as pristine as when CSI first goes in, April. But they're supposed to photograph everything. So that's how photograph and perhaps video record. That's how the defense can get an idea of what it looked like at the time that investigators first responded. But yeah, usually they do go to the scene. And sometimes it depends on who controls the scene. Is the scene released? In the staircase case, right? The crime scene was released back to the defendant. So then the defense sort of had control over the staircase. That's how I was there. I set up a meeting with the defense attorney, sat down, did an interview with him, and then went to the house and showed me the staircase. And I'm walking up and down the stairs before the trial. So the answer is yes. The short answer is yes, April. Thank you. Linda K. Sorry, Vinny. Why did Jen talk to law enforcement first when it was SS who took Maddie to school asked to be with her? Okay, so it's an interesting situation, right? Parent versus non-parent. But I believe that, yeah, he only sort of spoke up when he wanted to describe her. Oh, she has this beauty mark right here. So it was kind of weird. You would have thought, like, at that moment, she knows that he's the only one who's with her. Like, she knows that. So she should be telling investigators, well, this is what we think happened, but talk to Steph because he was with her. He can tell you everything. Like, that's the way it should have played out. Like, if it was normal. And it didn't play out that way, which makes it suspicious. Francine Harada, Honolulu in the house. I need a mega pint. Johnny Depp. What I meant was crime scenery before the cleaned. Yep. I think I answered it, April, though. I understood it. Sometimes I know that, so it takes me a minute to decipher it. But thank you, April. Let's see. What else? Oh, here we go. Melly reminded everyone we're entitled to our opinions. Let's stay classy, YouTube, Facebook. Let's stay classy. Don't make it personal. And please don't attack people on here. All right. Aleppo Gambit. I have 2 daughters and barely let them sleep together. This is way in left field. I agree. It's not, we know it's not normal because of everything that's happened here. We know it's not normal. We know it is not normal. Okay. Why would Jen wait for hours for police? You would wait at home in case she turned up. Jen knew she wasn't going to come home, says Katie May. Yeah, I understand that. I understand what you're saying, right? Where should you be when your child's missing? Well, someone should always be home. But where she was supposedly dropped off by Steph, I mean, that's a long way away. That's like not right down the block. Like, that'd be a long walk home, obviously. She didn't have her phone. I think the place for a parent to be, within hours of your child going missing is calling police as soon as you are worried. As soon as you're worried. And maybe you make those initial calls to friends, to family, not here, not here, not here, didn't go to school. Boom, I'm making the call, right? And then at that point, I'm doing nothing but searching, and I'm contacting a friend to contact all other friends, and all of us together are just going to be searching. And if police want to find me, they're going to find me out looking for my child. That's where they're going to find me. I think that's the way we've seen people respond that way. It's not like people don't. That's the way a lot of people respond in these situations. Christina Morena, Vinny, do you think she was pregnant? Would we ever find out? Well, the closest that we've come to any of that, and I'll go over it one more time, was the interview they did with her 13-year-old friend, unidentified. The 13-year-old friend told the detective that Madeline typically got her menstrual cycle 2 days before she did, except for last month when Madeline got hers a week or two after the unidentified 13-year-old got hers. The unidentified 13-year-old told the detective that they did not have a conversation as to why her menstrual cycle was late. The 13-year-old believed that Madeline was a virgin, and she did not ever see or hear anything to the contrary. Okay. I was just looking at a few more lines in there. So there is, and I'm going to ask Dave Arenberg tonight, who's a prosecutor down in Florida, if she was, would these charges be different? And my gut tells me, yeah, these charges would be different if she was pregnant. And that's something the medical examiner, which we've already gone over this on our show, with an expert, a medical examiner, said, yeah, that would be evident. It would be obvious during the autopsy if that was the case. If that was the case. Gringa. Thank you, Gringa. Let's see. Oh, the dogs. The dogs are barking. Hannah Kirkconnell. Jennifer Soto was only worried about her sleep, not thinking or pretending to know what's going on upstairs, neglecting her little girl, just blind as a bat. Was she purposely blinding herself, or was she blinded by the need to have a man in her life? What was it? What was it that drove that? And I think only a psychological evaluation could get to the bottom of that. And this is, again, trying to figure out the words to describe this. And I think Ginger's done it very well here. Vin, is it possible she was willingly oblivious? That's putting two words together very well in I think capturing what we're talking about here. Like there's a willingness to be oblivious to it all. You know, that's close to turning a blind eye. I think it's a little less than turning a blind eye. I think turning a blind eye is, for sure something's happening, but I'm not going to see it. Willingly oblivious is, well, I don't even want to know, right? Like if there is something happening, I don't even want to know if it's happening. Versus turning a blind eye. I know something's going on here, but I'm not going to look at it. By the way, why do they call it turning a blind eye? Because if the eye is blind, it's not going to see anyway. So why do you need to turn it? I don't know. I'm thinking about that too much. April. So autocorrect hit me harder than can lawyers visit a crime scene? Sorry. April, I think I answered your question. Appreciate it. Autocorrect is horrible. It's an enemy. It's an enemy of mine every day, text messaging people. But yes, you can, but it will not be exactly as it was when like investigators have the right to be there at first, right? They have the right to be there, especially if they then have a warrant. If it's a crime scene and the crime has happened, seal it off. If they're executing a search warrant, they have the right to be there. But once they're concluded with the search warrant or they have released the scene, anyone can go in. And sometimes it depends upon who actually controls the scene itself. And we saw in Idaho where the defense there before the demolition made several trips over there. And I think they took trips there before they took stuff out as well. And some of that has to do with also cooperation. And obviously the folks in Idaho cooperating with one another. Val, is mom in a mental hospital or what is she doing? It's not clear, Val. But if she is in a mental hospital, could that explain why maybe they're not pursuing her? Or if she had a complete breakdown, why they may not pursue her? But I'm not sure. But I am not sure. I cannot answer that. Cakes Boo. What evidence might law enforcement have taken from the house? Clothing, bedding, electronics. Don't know if they have any surveillance video there. They probably would have taken, obviously took photos of everything. Barbara, endangerment. Endangerment, yes, endangerment. That would be like the only place you could potentially go, and it's not a slam dunk. But I think you'd have to look at all the circumstances surrounding everything that is happening right now with the mother and with your case. But I will tell you this. Need her to more clearly establish that nighttime timeline. You don't need her to the point of cutting her an amazing deal for anything. But it's a cleaner case. Like you want to tell to a jury, you want to tell a complete story to the jury. You don't want to rely upon reasonable inferences. You want to rely upon as much actual eyewitness testimony evidence that you have along with your physical evidence, and not have to say, well, she, no, you bring in the people who can actually testify to this stuff. In June, you spoke about life on the row. Lack of human contact is the worst punishment. El Secreto de sus Ojos is an Argentine movie. Academy Award for Best International Movie. In a bizarre way, they showed it. Thank you, June. Good movie tip for everyone. Now, if it's a movie from Argentina, will you cry while watching it? That's a dad joke. All right. SS never put a ring on Jen's finger. What a joke. He targeted her to get Maddie. Bingo. Because that's what they do. That's what they do. That's exactly what they do. Exactamente, Carrie. Or how about if you know your daughter forgets her phone a lot, you should make sure she has it before you get in the car. Yes. And again, coming back to the phone was left. As a parent, is that something that you would bring to school for your child, or would you let your child live the old-fashioned way without a phone for a day? Because it's not just a communication device. It's not just a social media device. It's also a tracking device. Stacy, was Jen in the front seat of the car? Not Maddie. Now that's full-on criminal behavior. Full on. If Jen is anywhere near that car, if they can prove that, they've got videos all over the place. All over the place. If she's participating in the cup, it's over. No, that's like a no-brainer. She gets charged. She gets charged. She doesn't get a deal. Melly, what if Maddie was pregnant? That would be a charge for SS, right? So we would know. Yes, I believe so. I will confirm that tonight on my show. I'm bringing in Dave Amberg from down in Palm Beach County. So he's a state attorney down there, the prosecutor. So I absolutely believe there would be an upcharge on that for sure. For sure. Mm-hmm. All right. What do we have here? Clarissa Marie. Family hasn't made any statements defending Jen being a good mother. Also tied away from everyone at grandma's work. was outside, away from everyone at grandma's work. Yeah, the family, I think, has spoken more on Spanish-speaking media than they have on English-speaking media. And there's a very, very strong local Spanish-speaking media community down in Central Florida. I mean, it's really huge. There are several stations, both television and radio, and I think they've communicated more there. I think we did translate part of one of the interviews that was done with grandma. But they have no obligation to speak or say anything. On the one hand, on the other hand, this has got to be extremely difficult for them. AJS, you weren't so much as objectively investigating Karen Reed as objectifying her, correct? He's great. Proctor insulted a female medical examiner in the same way, undetermined cause. You weren't so much as objectively investigating Karen Reed as objectifying her, correct? He's great. Proctor, and yeah. So June is putting something up that AJ is asking. Alan Jackson. Right. So Alan Jackson, the cross-examination today, it was good for the defendant. It was bad for the prosecution. Just how bad we'll talk about tonight. And what it really uncovered was everything that this lead investigator was saying and doing, including talking about the medical examiner, calling her a whack job, I think, or a whack job, something like that, which is bad. But the medical examiner did say undetermined in the cause of manner of death. Does being broken mean failing your child? When I say being broken, I'm talking about broken after the fact, knowing that you failed your child. Has that broken her to the point where even if prosecutors could charge her with something much less than what Stearns is being charged with, would they just not bother because of whatever state of mind and physical well-being she's in right now? Again, I don't know. But that is something they could very well take into consideration in deciding whether or not to charge someone. Like, is it really worth it? Like, what do you get on the back end of that? If in fact she's broken and you believe she did something, but not to the level of Stearns. Pretzels, crisps, and dip. Jen's probably institutionalized now. Her camp is very quiet, and I think this is good because everyone is blaming her. We don't know the truth. That's true. Roommates. RLF. Roommates. There are roommates. I don't know how much we're going to get into the roommates tonight, but more likely tomorrow night. And we've got Brown Sugar. Hey, Vinny. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I am. It's a busy day, though. There are days like this at Court TV, right? Where you got to have. Some days there's even more happening, but we have two incredibly big stories with incredibly big moments happening simultaneously. And both are very time consuming. One is watching the cross-examination of a key witness at a crucial part of the case in the trial that we've been covering for months now, and for a story that we've been covering for years. The other is an incredible amount of information coming into our hands. All these documents related to a story that we've been covering in depth and finally getting some answers. So the way I'm handling it is we're going to cover a piece of MaddieS0t0 tonight, tomorrow night, likely the next night as well, because there's so much to get into, while continuing to cover what's happening simultaneously in this trial, which is the biggest challenge for me, because you've got to get a handle on the information Then working in television, I'll give you a little BTS here behind the scenes. Then you've got to take that information and say, okay, how are we presenting this on television tonight? What video are we going to show? What sound bites are we going to show? What images are we going to show? What guests will we invite on that will help tell the story and help us to get a greater level of depth of understanding of the story? And when you're covering stories like trials, you need some level of balance on both sides as well. So those are all the things going into my day, right? And then I jump in here for a little bit to talk about it, to see, to take your temperature, to see what issues are on your mind, because you are part of the true crime community that watches my show at night as well. So it all feeds off of itself. So I appreciate what you say and what you add to this. Very much so. So I do appreciate that. And that's one of the reasons that I do this. Another reason is also to spread the word about my television show. Because we've been on now Court TV when we relaunched 5 years ago. And it was amazing to me. Every day I'm going on social media and I'm coming across people who are either direct messaging me or posting something on one of my pages or one of my groups or something, and not realizing that Court TV is back. Which is, it's mind-boggling to me because I work there, and I tell everybody, but I understand it. There is so much media out there and so many different ways to find things, and it's easy for everything to get lost. So that's a little bit of the BTS behind the scenes of why I'm doing this and what goes into my day in preparing for what I do each night, which is 2 hours of live, unscripted, true crime coverage on television, which no one else is doing, by the way. No one else is doing that. Okay. Aaron Wilcuts. I tell my mom every time Vinny puts my comments up. Well, you got to tell her again. You got to tell her again, right? All right. Just got to get close to winding up here. Dione Peel. Hello, Vinny. Isn't she on record saying to the police that she has high anxiety? The roommate said that all three of them would sleep in the same bed. She sent SM and M to grandpa's room downstairs. Okay. I thought I read they went upstairs, but maybe it's downstairs to grandpa's room. Thank you, Dione. Melly, if you see something, say something, or no. Yeah, if you see something, say something. You see something, say something. Absolutely. The question is, who are you going to tell? Okay, so one second. No. I lost it. I had a good one. Katie May, wait for 911 at the office. What if you're mad? Turn up at home. What if Madeline turned up at home? Yeah, that's right. If she was home, no one would be home for her. Or were there other family members there? Were the roommates there, perhaps, in case Madeline showed up at home? It seemed, though, everyone was at that office, which was relatively close to where she was allegedly dropped off, but as we know, not dropped off. I can relate to this. My mom knew. So does Jen, says Amanda. See you on Court TV, says Melly. Yes, indeed, you will tonight. Mara DePace. He was grooming them both. She was jealous and had incriminating pics and forced her to lie. She is hiding in mental and avoid to being charged. So I think what Mara is saying, she's jealous of her own daughter. She's now purporting to feign some mental health issues to avoid being charged. And all of that is absolutely possible. We got a lady trucker. Can SS Alfred plea? If so, does that protect him from all the evidence being exposed of his horrific crime? The evidence is being exposed already. It's Florida. It's the Sunshine State. An Alfred plea. No, an Alfred. He's not going to do an Alfred plea. Alfred plea would have to be an agreement. And I'm not even sure what Florida's, what they do in Florida on Alfred pleas. Not every state does them. He can, though, as can any other defendant, can walk into a courtroom and just admit to everything that he's been accused of and avoid a trial. Any defendant can do that. You don't need a plea deal. You don't need the agreement of anyone to do that. If you've been charged with something, you can walk into the court and say, Your Honor, I plead guilty to the charges. Okay, you plead guilty. What do you plead guilty to? Then they put a factual basis on the record, and then they set a date for the sentencing. If it's a ultimate penalty case, then you can plead guilty like the guy did down in Parkland School, plead guilty, and then bring in a jury to decide the penalty phase, or you can agree to the penalty as well if you want. It's up to you. But not an Alford plea, not an Alford. Sharon Gregg, I'm actually hoping they're keeping so quiet because they're working to build a solid case against her. Love your show. Thank you for all you do. And that case, and if that's possible, and if that's the case, it's a harder case to put together, right? It's a harder case to put together. This is interesting from Carol Morris. Uncle Vinny is the best. Yes, but many people call me Cousin Vinny. Yeah, you follow that? Thank you. Heisenberg, Karen's lawyers call it a frame job, but didn't ask 2 questions. Who killed John O'Keefe? Why are you framing my client? Again, not good in front of a jury, and that speaks volumes in the courtroom. Heisenberg with a new picture today, by the way, too. This is on the Karen Reed case. That's interesting. That's interesting. Should you ask those questions? Bella Italia, I won't be watching court TV tonight. I have plans. Bella, che bella. Dove vai? All right. Melly, we appreciate your perspective. Thank you, Vinny. Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you. All right. I've got to wrap up. It's time to wrap. Vinny, release the hounds. Those are the dogs upstairs. Just trying to grab everyone. Heisenberg, she knew the exact pattern to reverse without touching his car. When it was time to leave, she had to get as close as possible on camera. Her brother not brushing off the right tail light is very bad. Carrie Dexter, think a blind eye to what they don't want to see. Exactly. Gav Johnson, thank you, Gav. Appreciate it. Melly, beautiful angel Maddie. Absolutely keep her in our thoughts tonight, folks. It's another tough day where we're learning more about the incredibly tragic life of this young girl. Lady Trucker, would an Alford plea protect him from the evil he committed? No Alford plea. Alford plea's not happening. No one's allowing him to get in there and resolve this without admitting to the charges. All right. Thank you, Sheila. Amanda, I'm a Hugh fan. Thank you for all you do. Awesome. And I think I have one more here. Danielle, I think she was jealous, her daughter too. I immediately got that feeling. Absolutely. And that's it. Oh, wait. Sunshine, no rain. Vinny, did you work on Channel 13 in Orlando a long time ago? Yes, I did. Right around the time of the turn of the century. I was at Central Florida News 13, all local, all the time, with Scott Harris, who was amazing. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Appreciate your support. 8 o'clock tonight, Court TV, 2 hours. I will be there for 2 hours, in 2 hours. In this case, MaddieS0t0, bringing in a prosecutor from Florida. Craig Hughes will join us as well. Then at 8 o'clock, everything about the Karen Reed trial. Crucial day in that case. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night. See you at 8. Please don't forget to hug the kids.